Hey guys, welcome back to IconPsych. This is the channel where we decode the mindset and psychology behind the world's most iconic celebrities. If you're new here, subscribe and join the community. Drop a like if today's video gives you something real. Now let's get into it. Every single day, without exception, there are people whose entire purpose seems to be tearing someone else apart. Not because that person did anything wrong, not because they deserve it. Just because they exist in a space where other people feel entitled to have opinions about their body, their face, their weight, their worth as a human being. And most people who face that level of sustained, daily public attack eventually break. They go quiet. They disappear. They shrink themselves down to whatever size generates the least amount of criticism. Or they fight back with the same energy that was used against them and lose themselves in the process. And then there's Giselle of aespa, who faces this reality every single day, who has been on the receiving end of some of the most disturbing, dehumanizing public commentary imaginable about her looks, about her weight, about her worth, and who responds consistently, calmly, honestly, with a level of emotional intelligence and psychological groundedness that most people never develop in an entire lifetime. Today we're not just talking about Giselle. We're talking about you, and the attacks you face, and the psychological framework that keeps a person whole when the world is doing its best to break them. Let's be honest about something that most people don't want to say out loud. Being attacked daily for how you look, for your body, your weight, your physical appearance, is one of the most psychologically damaging experiences a human being can endure. Not because looks should matter, but because we live in a world that has decided they do. And when that message comes at you repeatedly, from strangers, from public platforms, from people who have never met you and never will, it does something to the mind. It creates what psychologists call chronic social threat, a state where your nervous system is perpetually braced for the next attack, where your sense of safety in public spaces, even digital ones, is fundamentally compromised, where your brain starts associating existing visibly with danger. Most people in that state eventually retreat. They stop showing up fully. They stop speaking. They stop being seen. Because being seen has become associated with pain. Giselle didn't retreat. And understanding why and how is the most important psychological lesson this video can offer. Here's what makes Giselle's approach to this genuinely extraordinary. She doesn't perform unbothered. She doesn't pretend the attacks don't land. She addresses them directly, honestly, calmly, and then she keeps moving. When fans and critics constantly made her weight and appearance a daily topic of conversation, she responded with complete honesty. She said, "You know, you guys talk about my looks a lot. That's all you talk about when it comes to me. I've gained weight before. I've lost weight before. It's a natural thing. People lose weight and gain. No defensiveness. No anger. No performance of strength she didn't feel. Just the truth," stated plainly, and then she moved on. That response, that calm, grounded, honest acknowledgement, followed by complete refusal to give the topic more energy than it deserves, is one of the most psychologically sophisticated responses to public attack I have ever seen from anyone in entertainment, because it does three things simultaneously. It acknowledges reality without amplifying it. It humanizes her without making her a victim. And it closes the conversation without inviting more of it. Giselle said something that I think contains the entire blueprint for psychological survival under sustained attack. She said, "Acknowledging what I had to acknowledge, improving further on what I can improve on, but making sure not to lose myself. I continue to head with that mindset. 3 steps. Acknowledge, improve, don't lose yourself." That's it. That's the entire framework. And it sounds simple until you try to actually live it under real pressure. Because most people do one of two things when attacked. They either absorb everything, treating every criticism as truth, every attack is deserved, every opinion is fact, and they lose themselves in the process of trying to become whatever will generate the least amount of judgment. Or they reject everything, building walls so high that genuine feedback never gets through, that real growth becomes impossible. that connection with other people becomes permanently blocked. Giselle found the middle path, the psychologically sophisticated path. She filters. She takes what is genuinely useful, the feedback that helps her grow, and she uses it. She releases what is simply designed to hurt, the attacks that serve no purpose except to diminish, and she refuses to let them rewrite her identity. That filtering process, that ability to separate signal from noise under pressure, is called emotional differentiation, and it is one of the rarest and most powerful psychological skills available to human beings. Her fellow aespa members once chose Giselle as the person who gives the most realistic and grounded advice among them. Think about what that means. In a group of exceptionally talented, emotionally aware women, her peers consistently turn to her for guidance, not because she tells them what they want to hear, but because she genuinely considers both the logical and the emotional dimensions of every situation before she speaks. That's the definition of high emotional intelligence, the ability to hold both reason and feeling simultaneously, to give advice that is honest without being cruel, practical without being cold, warm without being delusional. Most people default to one side or the other, either purely logical, correct but lacking compassion, or purely emotional, warm but potentially misleading. Giselle operates in the space between. And that space, that ability to be both honest and kind, both clear and compassionate, is why people trust her. It's why her fans feel genuinely seen in conversations with her. And it's why her voice carries weight even when the world is trying to drown it out. One of the most remarkable things about Giselle is not just that she survives the attacks, it's that she speaks about them openly. Without turning it into a war, she has gone live and addressed her struggles directly. She has spoken about issues within the K-pop industry with honesty and courage. She has expressed support for communities that are often dismissed or attacked in public spaces. And she does all of this and without losing her composure. Without letting the conversation become about anger or revenge. Without becoming the thing she's standing against. That takes an extraordinary level of psychological maturity. Because when you are being hurt, the instinct is to hurt back. When you are being dehumanized, the instinct is to react in a way that feels human. But Giselle consistently chooses something harder and more powerful than reaction. She chooses clarity. She chooses honesty. She chooses to speak from her actual values rather than from her wound. And that distinction, speaking from values rather than wounds, is what separates someone who changes a conversation from someone who just extends it. And now I want to speak directly to you, because I think most people watching this have faced some version of what Giselle faces. Maybe not on a public platform, maybe not from thousands of strangers, but in your own life, in your own circles, you have experienced the feeling of being judged for something you can't control, of being reduced to a single characteristic that someone else decided defined your worth, of having your appearance, your body, your choices become a topic of conversation you never invited. And maybe some days that feels manageable, and maybe some days it genuinely doesn't. I want you to take Giselle's 3-step framework and make it yours. First, acknowledge honestly. Not everything people say about you is wrong. Some of it is feedback worth hearing. Sit with it long enough to know the difference. So improve where you actually can. Not to satisfy the people attacking you, but because growth is always worth pursuing on your own terms. Third, and most importantly, do not lose yourself in the process. The version of you that exists before the attacks. The real, full, complete version and is worth protecting fiercely. Not every opinion deserves to reach the place inside you where your identity lives. You get to decide what gets in, and you get to decide what stays outside. That boundary, that psychological filter, is not selfishness. It is survival, and it is the foundation of every unbroken mind that has ever existed. Giselle faces more daily judgment than most people will experience in a lifetime, and she remains consistently, remarkably, powerfully herself. Not because she is immune to pain, but because she built something inside herself that pain cannot permanently reach. A framework of acknowledgement, growth and identity, protection that keeps her whole when everything around her is designed to fragment her. That framework is available to you. It doesn't require fame or a platform or a public audience. It requires a decision to filter what gets in, to grow from what's useful, and to protect who you are with the same fierce, calm, unshakable energy that Giselle brings to every single day. Subscribe to IconPsych. Share this with someone who needs to know their mind can be unbroken. We'll see you in the next one.